Studia Nova, it's an accredited private school.
And everything from foreign languages to...
We're teaching piano, but through these things called melodicas.
She started to ask a lot more about Christianity and like, why do you do what you do, you know?
We go to our first date and he's like in a suit and tie. I'm like feeling really confident.
All right, hello, and welcome to the unofficial Acts2 Network podcast. We are launching lifelong kingdom workers from every college town. My name is Steven.
I'm Isaiah.
And today we are with... You guys want to
Jeanne.
introduce yourselves?
Richard?
Yeah. And why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick? Graduating class, who are some of your peers around our network, people you've ministered to, and maybe just like your history of like where you first met, or like where you were at first, and then where did you move to, and all that kind of a little bit of just overview, dude. Yeah, background.
Okay, my name is Richard, and well, let's see. Class of 2002, so my peers are Mike King here in Berkeley, and then Angel and Richard Jeanne out on the East Coast, Southeast. And then in the Midwest South, it's Andrew Iskandar out in Madison, Wisconsin, and Kevin Karabian down in Texas. And then a few other peers here, Wilson.
What is your peer class known for? Do you guys have a...
Probably highest GPA, Geeks All-Stars.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Of that era,
Of
you
that
know.
era.
Nowadays, you know, maybe Calvin's class or Brian Mal's class. Yeah, they're pretty up there, but...
Yeah.
The original East Geeks, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Jeanne?
Yeah, I'm Jeannie. I'm class of 04. My peers are like Ilju, Sarah Song here, Judy, Andrea, Tiffany, Betty, Sophia, Leanne here. So yeah, we've been here for quite a bit.
Yeah.
And before coming to the FTLIT program, we were in Berkeley for about 10 years and then went to Riverside. And then in the middle of COVID, we started APU and then slowly transitioned to Pomona. So
We were in Pomona for 3 years and then moved up here.
Got it. So FTLIT stands for Full-Time Leads in Training, and that's actually what we wanted to talk to you guys a lot about, because you guys signed up for this one-year program to get trained up as full-time leads at our church, and that a lot of people are like interested, like, what does that entail, and what do you guys do all day, and stuff like that, you know. But before we get there, just to get to know you guys a little bit more, maybe you guys can just share how'd you start going to our church, how'd you become Christian, what was that journey like for you? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I started coming because one of my high school friends' older brothers was part of our group back then. He was a fifth-year senior. He gave me a new student welcome night flyer, and so I went around to different clubs, and I came to our new student welcome night. I was 20 minutes late, but I got in time. I got there just in time for the mask skit, the original mask skit, and I was like, wow, this is actually well done, and this is a Christian group, amazing. And it was like really funny and I thought profound, and so I was like, wow, that was really neat.
Did you go to church?
I grew up going to church, yeah, and so I was kind of looking for a church halfway, you know, and I stumbled upon our group, and then we had Kleberger night, which was what our sports nights were called back then.
What's it called?
Maxwell.
It's now called Maxwell
Yeah,
Family
it used to be called
Deal Night,
Kleberger,
but now
yeah.
it's called Kleberger Night.
Maxwell's a way better name.
I had a lot of fun, and so yeah, that's how I first came to our church.
yeah. So I didn't grow up going to church, but end of my senior year, my aunt died from cancer. I was kind of asking questions about life and things like that. I kind of hit a low because senior year, that was like kind of, I was president of a few clubs. I got a lot of awards and things like that. But I also saw my sinfulness through different choices that I had made that I regretted. So I actually started going to church my senior year with a friend. Yeah.
High school?
In high school, yeah. I went twice. By started going, I went twice.
Yeah.
And there was a low point where I went to church by myself, just this little white steeple church. And I saw that it started at 11. It was like 10:55, so I just stuck in there. And that pastor preached on the prodigal son. And I thought, if God is like that father, then I want to know who he is. So coming into college, that was my mindset. I was like, I want to learn about this God, So actually in high school, my non-Christian friends bought me a Bible because we were talking about all
Your
this
non-Christian
existential
friends?
stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
They're like, we heard that people go to the Bible when you have these kind of questions. So I tried reading it. I opened it up. It was like Leviticus or something. I need some help, right? So coming into college, I was looking at Christian groups and I actually went to a lot of Christian tables. So I introduced myself. I was like, hi, you know. And I think most people assume you're Christian already. So, you know, I didn't really make meaningful connections, but then I get a flyer for welcome night. And it's Susan Iskandar from Minnesota. And she's warm and friendly and engages me. And I write on that flyer, like, I have to go to this one. And then I wanted to be a teacher at that time. So she walked me over to the table and I met Emily Kim, who was in grad school to be a teacher at that time. I thought she was like the coolest person. So I was like, must go to this group, you know, like cool people. So I went to welcome night and I was really blown away, by the messages. So I think most of my freshman year, I mostly only came for the content, and then I left right after because I had other friends, other activities.
Like,
but,
people are really cool, but I don't want to hang out with them.
I did, you know, go to their place and stuff, but it was just like, but I always made sure I made it to the Bible study, and then eventually to church. So Pastor Ed was teaching, like I just soaked everything up. I thought the truths were so profound, and it described life, you know, as I had experienced it. So I didn't know I didn't have the word sin in my vocabulary, but I had experienced the effects of sin, you know. And so when Pastor Ed put a label on it and described, you know, our brokenness, I just thought, that's so true. Like, this is exactly what I experienced. And then that experience of like, yeah, God is like this Father, you know, and so I took Course 101, then middle of freshman year, I became a Christian.
Wow.
And then it was kind of
was it at like a special event or anything? Or was it just kind of
it was a
in
Sunday
course?
service, yeah.
Just a
I
normal
forget
Sunday.
exactly the passage, but you know, it's one of those like I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready, like I understand. And then that's it. Yeah.
And for Richard, like, did you become Christian at our church? Was it before? Like, what was kind of that spiritual journey like for you through college?
Yeah, I think growing up, going to church, I came into college looking for independence and freedom and kind of looking to walk away in some ways, and at least open to the idea, very open to the idea. But before I walked away, I felt like I should at least figure out to see whether or not there's any merit to it. And so I took Course 101, and Pastor Ed's messages, they were unusual to me in a lot of ways. But I got at least one thing most of the time my freshman year. But the thing that struck me the most was just the authenticity with the way, in the way that people lived out their faith. And so that struck me, and that kept me coming to see, like, there must be something here. I took a little bit longer, and so I made my clear salvation decision my junior year. So it was probably kind of right around the same time, since we're 2 years apart.
Okay.
But I think my junior year was the time where I really saw my sinfulness for the first time clearly and owned it for myself. Knew that I couldn't fix it on my own through just my own like ability to work around it or to stop it. And then that's when the cross became the most meaningful to me. So
So you guys have been doing bivocational ministry for, gosh, how long for you now?
since 2002, so that's 20
Over 20 years.
22
oh my
years now.
gosh.
Yeah.
So Bible, working a full-time job.
Yeah. What did you guys do
ministry.
before becoming FTLIT?
So I'll go first because it's not as impressive. I was a teacher, and then I became a technical writer. And how I got that job was Eunice, they wanted to hire Eunice. But she's like, I can't take Eunice Kim. She's like, I'm about to like go plant a church, so you can't hire me. But I know this sister, and then I go to the job interview, and on my resume, it's like I wrote for our website. And they're like, you write for Pastor Ed? And I was like, yeah. But it turns out like they went to the hiring manager
knew of Pastor Ed.
Yeah, because Pastor Ed spoke at a retreat for like a
so
Korean
random.
church when they were in college or post-grad. So then I got the job. So that's how I made the transition from teaching to
Connections.
writing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
and
actually, that's
networking.
interesting because my first job out of college, I got through Jeanne.
You did?
I
wow.
did
That
the
was
video
manager,
side
so-
of her tech writing.
Wow.
I forgot about that, but yeah, that's
I
that's
forgot
interesting.
about that. I
It's
was
all
a
about
horrible
it's all about
manager.
who you know.
Yeah. Oh. I guess I should thank my dad. I guess that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then sure.
After college, I went to law school and I worked as an attorney. Most recently, I worked for the state as an administrative law judge. And yep, that's what I did.
Is it true that you would show up to like all the college events with your suit? And
Yeah,
Like
the
your
first,
robes, your judge robes?
No.
Oh.
This is the first few years where I had to wear a suit to work every day.
okay.
And I was working long hours, so right when I got out of the office, I would head straight to Berkeley, go to campus, and just participated in whatever we were doing that day. And so if it was Bible study, I'd go to Bible study in my suit. If it was dining hall outreach, I'd do that in my suit. If it was ultimate frisbee, I'd roll up my sleeves, roll up my pant legs, and just run out there with
a lot of suits
with all the freshmen. Yeah.
Probably outran a lot of them.
Yeah. So you guys, go.
No, I was just gonna say a funny story about the suit thing. So when we first started dating, I mean, I knew of him. We didn't know each other that well. So, he called me. I was like, oh, sure, why not? Because I knew him as, like, someone that was, like, a hardworking brother in our midst. But anyway, we go to our first date, and he's, like, in a suit and tie. And I didn't know that he wore it all the time for work, So I'm, like, feeling really confident. Like, wow, like...
This guy's a try-hard.
He's trying really hard to
he's
impress
just
me.
trying hard, and that's what she liked.
He must have been really into me, right? So
So it was a good first impression.
it was good because, I was kind of nervous, and then I was like, I'm feeling confident. Okay, I think this is going to go well.
Were you able to tell? You're like, this girl's like,
No,
confident.
I was really nervous too, But little did she know, right after our date, I
Yeah,
probably
and
went
then I
to
was
play
like,
ultimate
he
frisbee in that
wears
suit.
a suit everywhere he goes, even when he really should not be in a suit.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow. So I think the guys listening to this podcast should take notes. They should wear a
maybe
suit.
you should wear a suit on your first date.
Yeah.
So you guys, well, let's talk about that a little bit. So your guys' relationship. So, best and worst date story. Do you guys have any fun ones?
Oh, yeah. Worst date.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
That came to mind quick. Yeah.
we were pretty in a busy season of life. So, like, I worked a teaching job. It was like a 1-hour commute. He was at a really hard law firm, and we were both busy with ministry. So it was hard to, like, plug in time, So there was, like, a stretch where it was like, okay, let's find a time to meet. Just couldn't figure out time. So he's like, let's meet before, like, JCC practice, right? And I was
JCC,
like, okay.
the Jordan Christmas, kids
like,
Christmas
on
pageant.
Saturday morning, right? And he's like, let's meet at 6:30 a.m. for breakfast. And I'm like, I'm not a morning person. So for me, that was like the worst day. I'm like, I never want to do this ever again.
Wow.
I'd rather not see you than see you at 6:30 in the
my
morning.
God.
Yeah.
But that
on
was...
Saturday morning,
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about the day that I proposed.
That was
That
the
was the
worst
worst?
date?
No, well,
Oh, that
okay,
was
no,
kind
that
of-
was, it was inconvenient, but that was also the date where, we had to meet for breakfast, so it was like 6:30 or 7,
Wow.
but I had to pull the trailer for JCC practice.
Oh,
Okay.
So I woke up earlier, pulled the trailer to Willard, dropped it off, and then went back to...
When I found out about that, then I was like, wow,
You're
you're
at
awesome.
6:30, so I dropped off anyway.
Yeah.
But then the day that I was going to propose, okay, so we went to that walkway off at the Bay Farm. Yeah. Right along the coast, and then I was like, hey, let's meet up, and she's like, okay, and then she was supposed to help.
I was helping the
college
sister
student
move, and it was just me and my SUV. She's like, I don't have a lot of stuff. I have like 5 boxes. And I get there, she has like a ton of stuff. It takes me like 4 hours.
trust. That is
And I'm
such
moving
a
it like by myself.
No
right?
elevator up and
No
down the
elevator,
stairs.
up like 2 flights of stairs. So I'm like, I don't want to meet today. I'm like, hi, I'm sweaty. Like, I
Well,
just
didn't know
moved.
this,
Like,
right? And I was like, no, I think
4
we should just go
trips
meet.
for this little girl. He's like, no, I really want to. I was like, okay,
So you had no idea
Yeah.
it was coming? The
No,
proposal,
I
you
didn't know. I was just like, okay, he must have no other time this week to meet me, So, but because we got engaged, it washed away the.
Washed away
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So that's funny. So you have any like positive stories you want to balance that out with, or?
Yeah. Anytime you didn't meet at
Those are
6:30
the
a.m.,
positive stories.
I'm just like,
I did want to ask you a little bit more about like the bivocational ministry things. So, just like as a college senior, what made you stick around and decide to do ministry here and for as long as you did, 2 decades, I guess, for both of you. What went into that decision?
I think there were a few pivotal moments in undergrad that really changed my it was a paradigm shift for me. One of them was going on mission trip to Japan, and not only just going on the mission trip, but the summer before I went, we sent a team and just seeing how Japan could be the most efficient, orderly, society, and yet produce so much lostness and brokenness amongst its people. That really struck me, and then I had, internships in college and things like that, worked with like really smart, successful people. And when I took a look at what their lives were really about, it was like just for the weekends. It was like their wine collection or something like that. And in my mind, I was pretty ambitious as an undergrad, but I was like, man, am I gonna burn all of my years and energy, just for like a wine collection, And so I just saw the emptiness of that kind of life and what that would look like, 10, 20 years down the line, but also seeing that really society has no other answer, seeing how lost even the Japanese people are, and Japanese college students. And so at that point, I personally just felt like, man, yeah, the gospel is the hope of the world, and so it's just something that I wanted to commit to doing. And I haven't seen ministry done anywhere else like our church does, and so I just wanted to be a part of that, to experience the way that God was reaching people at our church in a way that I hadn't seen in any other way. And so, I was thrilled to be a part of that.
What year was that when you went to Japan?
I went the summer of 2001.
Was that the famous Olympic Center?
No.
Wasn't that true?
I went for the whole summer, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so it wasn't just a 2-week thing, but I got to go for the whole summer. I lived at Tony Sun's house.
Oh, that's when they
He
were there.
housed us. Yeah, that was when, and so Stefan and Philip were like little,
Yeah.
running around there. But we had a lot of fun, and it was a really wonderful experience. So.
Yeah, I think my choice to stay at college, it was like more tenuous, Yeah, I actually left. So I went 4.5 years in college, and then I went home for a semester because to help my family out.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't sure if I was going to actually come back to our church. But then I got into grad school, and then I came back. But I think it was over time. So you asked earlier, like, people we ministered to. I think it was as I was doing ministry that my heart for college ministry specifically grew. So, I'm the only Christian in my family, and so that was like a big burden.
Yeah.
College ministry, I wasn't sure, like, I would be really into that. I love, like, children. I wanted to be a teacher, enjoy youth. So it wasn't the demographic, but I knew that I wanted to do some kind of ministry. So, in undergrad, I read about, like, heroes of faith. And so that was always in my mind. Yeah, I'm a Christian. I want to share the gospel. But, yeah, staying at our church, serving, like, that was kind of like, I'm not sure, Like, I still had trouble with, like, just church life. Because it was just, at the end of the day, like, it was not something I was used to, for most of my life. And
I don't know if anyone's used to
structure, yeah. So, but as I grew, some of the first classes was one class that stands out to me is like 2014, like Helen Zhu, Casey. They were so fun. Like I had so much, Irene Day, I had so much fun with them.
Yeah.
We had like road trips, and they were, just kind of helping them grow. Really helped me see, just how fulfilling, sharing the gospel and leading people. And then also as I got older and more mature, I realized like how much was given to me. I think that took me time to see. And seeing how, if I had not, been like a recipient of so much of people's sacrifices, from people that ministered to me to people that just gave to the environment, like tithes so that we could have like these getaway homes, or even I remember like Pastor Jonathan giving up like Harvard, and that like set a new standard for me. Like, wow, he could have done that, but he's here and he's preaching and he's teaching and passing on wisdom, to people like me, And so I think as I just matured, my convictions grew. But it definitely was kind of like, I'll try it out and see how it goes for a little while. Yeah.
Wow, I love how in both your stories sort of cover the gamut, that there's people who like right away, like, I know this is what I want to do and I want to be part of that, and you have an experience of being disillusioned by, working life. You go on a mission trip, often part of that story, and then you realize, wow, this is what I want to do. And then you got like I'm not really sure about this. There's some real things I'm not used to, and I don't know. And you kind of going maybe a year, maybe I'll just test it out. And then your heart gets really, captured by ministry and seeing people transform. And I think there's a lot there that everyone in our network can identify with and encourage. And maybe you can speak into a little bit, just one more thing on this bivocational thing. 22 years, that's a long time. So what are some things that like were challenging about it and then like got better like over time, like maybe in the long-term view or yeah, just something that where you could speak to someone who's maybe in the thick of that challenge and be like, it gets better, encourage them a little bit, Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll be honest because I want to encourage some sisters out there. Like I was a mess of a person in college, right? Like my room, like I had my laundry on my bed, and then when I had to go to sleep, sometimes I would put it on my desk. It was like that, it was like I just could not keep track of my schedule. Like I just couldn't get life done.
It's not encouraging. Some guys are like this too.
Okay, yeah, that does not make me feel better. That some guys are like this. I'm just saying, that's where I started. I didn't have a lot of like discipline or habits, and so going into working life, becoming a mom, like leading a ministry, like that all catches up with you. So I think like the hardest part is like just maintaining like an orderly life while doing ministry and leading people and meeting different needs. I wouldn't say that that's the hardest part because there's other hard things like like people break your heart and like things like that. But I think in terms of being bivocational or covocational and doing ministry, you are busy. And there's some things that you just need to get better at with life, and that's where I experience a lot of strength, like coming from the outside, like just, learning to be more structured and disciplined. Actually, it got a lot better after we got married, because he's very disciplined. Then he would, sometimes clean up, after me a little bit.
Just a little bit.
That helped, yeah.
I think I remember early when I first started working. Well, there was that 6-month period where I was like tired all the time, because I had just entered the working world. Even though I was 28 at the time, I felt like I was a 23-year-old, just starting to learn how to get into the office, do all my work, and perform okay, and all that stuff. And so I think doing that, and then at that time I was with Calvin's peers, and so leading a life group as well. And so
that's cool because Calvin's in the FTLIT.
Yeah,
as well,
Calvin's in the FTLIT program, and later we led 2014, which is Brian Mao's class. And so Brian's, so it's a really neat intergenerational kind of.
It's very different than when we did it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Peers. Anyway.
And so to get everything done and still prioritize my spiritual disciplines, like there's a season where I just like skimped on that, and it bit me in the end because I just felt thinned out and like it just wasn't good for me, And so I think going back to like the getting what's important done instead of just the urgent, like your DT never feels urgent, but it's so important, and to get into a regular rhythm and habit of making sure that I have that solitude time with God first before doing any of the other things. I think that was a challenge, but it got easier over time as I submitted the schedule, as I just personally became more disciplined, but also as I really saw the value of having those disciplines in place first, before anything else. And so I think I can execute things and get things done, but do it in such a way that it becomes very mechanical, and so to be able to like have those times where I'm engaging my heart, while getting those things done, or, letting some things drop, in order to prioritize kind of heart engagement, I think that is something that was difficult in the beginning, just because I thought I could do everything because I was young and I was brash, but over time, just seeing the reality and what I needed and what my limitations were, I think that became easier over time.
Yeah. Wow.
So you guys were at Berkeley, Riverside, APU, and Pomona, is that right?
Yeah.
Am I missing any?
Yeah.
You guys have a favorite campus?
Oh, yeah, I can't say that.
Controversial, man. I love them all.
We're asking about kids, right?
All right. You don't have to tell us, but tell us after the show. You want to get into the FTLIT thing now?
Yeah. So FTLIT, lit stands for Leads in Training, like I said, and getting a year training. It's a program that it's like a second time we're doing the program. First time was with us. We were the guinea pigs, and what
They changed a lot from our program
it
to
has
this program.
changed a lot.
So
It's like upgrade.
I don't know what that says about us, but a lot changed.
We were beta.
Yeah.
Why did you sign up for?
Yeah, I was curious about that because
Because it sounded like you had like a
20
good
year.
thing
Yeah, you
going.
guys have a good thing
Like,
going.
You're just
why make that switch
Bible
now?
22 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise that we were even asked to be part of the program, given our age. But Pastor had emailed us, and it was I still kind of remember because he emailed on a Sunday, and I was finishing my message, and I saw his email come in, but I was like, I cannot read this right now. And then
Did you see the subject line? You knew what it was?
Well, no, I didn't.
you
I was
just
like,
know,
oh, it's something important, but I'm not going to look at it right now.
I have to preach.
And then she texted me. She's like, what do you want to do? Right. And so we were going to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I cannot talk about it. But I think,
Sunday morning stress.
yeah, I think the opportunity just to be trained by Pastor and
Yeah.
Kelly in a focused way,
Yeah.
was just an opportunity we didn't want to pass up. And then we had concerns because where Pomona Ministry was, we just felt like we needed to be there. But then Rick and Sue had been with us for a long time, and they kind of knew what the ministry was like and what the state of it was. And so they thought it would be okay for us to leave Pomona and be part of this program. So that gave us some extra reassurance too. But just the opportunity to just surrender and to put our yes on the table and, to be trained. Because I think I personally also felt like after 3 years of leading Pomona Ministry as a Bivo, I was right up at the edge of my leadership kind of capability, and
Totally.
and so I felt like it was something we needed to do as well, So yeah, it was good timing, and so I think that's the main reason why we said just
Yeah.
yes.
So I had stopped working in 2017 already and working for church. And so when we got the invite, I was like, oh, wow, they actually want us. That was my response. Because I just
like,
thought
are you
we were just
sure?
we're kind of older
Are you
already.
sure?
Anyway, but I think, but prior to that, I was kind of reaching, I think my just capacity,
Yeah,
kind of a ceiling.
Yeah.
And then as their retirement coming up,
Yeah.
was like, shoot, I gotta grow. So I think I was mostly motivated by personal growth, especially as, in our context before, we had a lot of older ones with, a lot of heart, a lot of zeal, and I really wanted to help them grow as well, but I felt like I need to grow first and kind of understand, or just grow. And so we didn't really know what was gonna happen when we got here, but we were excited to be with Pastor Ed and Kelly. I think one of the reasons I actually stayed on staff for so long, even when I struggled, was just meeting with them. Ministry didn't have to go well, I didn't have to enjoy everything, but every time we had meetings or I met with them, I would learn something, about myself or about the world and just grow wiser. And so I was looking forward to that, having that time again.
So how's it been?
Yeah.
And what's the program like? Because
What's
I don't even know.
What's a usual day?
Yeah.
What's a day today?
There's no usual day. That's the usual.
There's no usual week.
Do on a normal day.
No, there are some usual days.
There's a default day
Yeah.
or
Okay, so
default
what's
week
the default week?
where a lot of times we just spend being available at HB for anything that needs to happen.
Sure.
And so that in and of itself is like the wild card,
Yeah.
right? Because we were last week we were anticipating, so we would be doing some Bible reading C.S. Lewis, things like
Those
that.
are the regular things.
Yeah,
always
those are the
Bible
regular
reading,
things.
always C.S. Lewis time.
And then we have our own projects
Yeah.
by our cohorts within the FTLIT program. So we're we're doing Studia Nova,
Oh, okay, yeah, we
helping
wanna
that get
talk
launched.
about
Yeah.
that,
The guys do BTT also.
We do BTT,
Yeah.
Bible teacher training,
No
but like last
way.
week we got pulled into making the tent at HB. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
was
Was that
like,
new?
yeah, that was
Oh.
new.
Yeah,
So
it's
that
like
was-
10-hour days.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah, to beat the rain. So
Yeah.
but our default is to be here at HB and kind of do some of that
Mhm.
kind of Bible readings, C.S. Lewis and BTT and projects. But man, we've done everything from clean every cabin at JP to going to New York City and trying out a lot of different ministry playbooks out there.
Yeah,
so.
you guys have gotten to see a lot of the country and just a lot of campuses and
yeah,
Yeah.
New York,
yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
Where else have you
definitely.
been?
We
you
went to
went
New York, and then
SoCal.
during that
Boston.
Northeast trip, went to Boston
Right.
and hit Yale, UConn, Amherst along the way,
Yeah.
and went to Atlanta. And then we went to the Midwest and UIUC and
Yeah.
Madison.
And the sisters
And
went to
we,
LA
we get a
also.
little like updates like, oh, the FTLITs are doing evangelism road trip over here and there. And on one hand, it could seem like a lot of like just travel, but like what has going out, what has that done for your perspective on ministry and your heart? Like, can you speak into that a little bit? Just
Oh man, I think definitely the ERTs have been like a highlight of my experience because, it's not like we're not engaged in gospel sharing, but when you're like a kind of older leader, like you're not sharing the gospel that often, like directly to people,
because
right?
you're like
Yeah.
helping the people who are doing
Yeah,
that.
and you're doing like logistics or having meetings and counseling and things like that. So I think seeing different contexts and like just sharing the gospel again and again, that's one thing we all did, like it just kind of brought me back to first love and like wanting to be
campus
out,
ministry,
like,
yeah.
out in the field. I think so. One thing that's done for me is like, you gotta just go and like something will happen, because I think prior to that, it's like, you have your plans and you have your Google Doc. Not that that's not needed, for like events that we do. But there's this other thing that we experience where it's like, in the Gospels, like Jesus doesn't, they don't have like Google Docs. He's just like, hey guys, we're going over the lake, Like he knows there's a demoniac across the lake, but like the other guys, they don't know. They're just,
He
they're just going.
probably should not put that in the calendar.
Yeah.
He might not know.
But that's what we experience. It's like we don't know who's there, but God knows. He knows. Like this random, this like attorney walking down the street, she stops and I get to share the gospel with her, and she's been thinking about God, even though
Wow.
she's from China. We meet like another Chinese kid. He's read like half the Bible.
Wow.
And so I think just experiencing that just humbled me and just made me see again, like, we just need to go out there because God knows, like, He can make things happen and orchestrate situations. And, and like Calvin and Esther and our Midwest trip, they met two people that were just ready to accept Christ. Like,
Wow.
who knew, Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that like when we moved out to Philly together, that first year definitely felt like, oh, we're just joining in on things that God has already been doing, and we
Yeah.
just need to be willing to do that. So that's really neat. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, as you done these ERTs, and I mean, like, I feel like we've learned a lot indirectly from your guys' ERTs, like the lesson about, hey, like, when you do outreach, do it all together. Don't be on like a sad pair on the corner. Like, so we've like really adopted some of those things.
Yeah,
But
it's been great.
as you do that, how is it shifting your perspective about like ministry? Like, any ideas, like when you go back into ministry and you're back on the college campus in normal capacity, like any ideas like how you might do things differently or things you want to try now as you're observing these campuses and going out there?
I would attempt more, even if it's not like a tried and true kind of a thing. Like we wanted to put on some kind of an event where people can come to, but we're like, man, we don't even have a room. How are we gonna do that? And so we just brought the special talk to them, made a handout for it, and just asked people while we were flyering, hey, do you have 5 minutes? We can sit down and talk about this topic. And so one of the neatest pictures was when about 10 of us were on campus at the University of Wisconsin, and there were about 10 special talks happening right there,
Wow.
in either one-on-one or one-on-two, one-on-three, things like that. And so just to try something, on campus and to be out there more, I mean, that's you'll meet spiritually hungry people, as you're out there. And so I would make that more of a regular part of our schedule. We'll go out there and we'll table, but sometimes it's just flyering for an event, and that needs to happen too, right? But to be able to go out there and try a little bit more or something a little bit different to have like richer spiritual engagement. I think sometimes I felt like, oh man, it's not really there's like, who's gonna really stop for this or something like that. But man, a lot of people stopped and were engaged in kind of really rich conversations.
Yes, I don't know if you've been feeling this, but I've definitely been feeling this. So at Rutgers, we've been trying to just go out, twice a week and do outreach, and definitely feel like people are more spiritually hungry. Like I can't prove that to you, but I definitely feel it. And sort of the challenge is like they're more spiritually hungry, but they're still not coming to events. Like they're still not coming into your special talk or your Bible study, but there is more spiritual hunger. So it's like, how do we take advantage of that? And I really like what you guys did, and that might be part of the answer. Just like, okay, we got to do more on the spot. Like they have the questions, let's answer it right now instead of hoping to funnel them into some holding tank that we're gonna have on the
it's
side.
not just like attempt more, but it's actually a fundamental different approach. It's not bring them to a time where they can hear content. It's like, no, you are the content, and you go there and you go meet them because they're busy. The window of opportunity is small, and so you just gotta be ready right there.
Yeah, and if you just held a bunch of events, you would never know that. Like you would never know people are more spiritually hungry because they're still not coming in any more numbers than they used to. But you guys are seeing that on campus.
Yeah, and I think a corollary to that would be just to train more of our students too, and invest a little bit more in that because they're where the students are, so if they're equipped to answer those questions, and things like that, then man, that's gold, I think, right there, and I think we've experienced that in a lot of ways, even in our last semester at Pomona, where we tried to do Course 101 training, to our students, and then, or evangelism training, and then they just go and share the gospel with their friends, and their friends become Christian, things like that, and so we saw that kind of grow in a huge way too, so yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing I would do differently is to have our staff and our students experience more ministries, So while we've been here, we've also been doing elderly care ministry. So I have like a one-on-one Bible study going on with like a really sharp elderly woman. She's like, she had a stroke and she's there, but her mind she's really sharp. The guys have been going to the Dream Center. And that's been really like great for them.
Yeah, that's where you've been doing the computer training. Is that
Yeah.
Like,
We've been going for their gospel nights.
Oh, okay.
And so that's like once every term, so once every 6 weeks or so.
Dream Center, for those who don't know, maybe just explain it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a center where people who have been incarcerated kind of re-enter society, and so they have housing and things like that. It's sponsored by a church. It's a ministry of a church, and we come alongside them and provide a lot of the skills and computer training that will help them to kind of re-enter society.
Yeah, because a lot of them have never.
Yeah, they've been in prison for like 30, 40 years, and they've never seen email or anything like that. They have a hard time with a mouse. And so, like a lot of our tech guys, that's just something that we can kind of help them and show them what to do. So,
Yeah.
So what does just to go back to close the loop, like what do you think that people experiencing more ministries does?
Yeah, I haven't been able to like capture it in words, but I think what it's done for my heart is just kind of having like a wider, bigger picture of how God's at work, and just having a deeper appreciation for the church too, because we're in a very small church, right? And it's like mostly college and a little bit of youth and things like that. But, it's a very small kind of slice of reality, right? But here, we live with like Richard and Lauren Kwan, and so we have a window into like what happens at Barnabas, like all the things that she's doing, like the way that she leads food. They've been keeping up, her and Richard, they've been keeping up with a Japanese professor for years, and they do a Zoom Bible study with him. And just, I think what it does for me is just gives me more of a sense of like, while God is at work in all these different ways at our church, and there's a lot that we can do, there's a lot of work that needs to get done, there's a lot of people that need the gospel, and so something about that bigger perspective puts everything else in perspective, so it's not,
Yeah, so if
Yeah,
you're like
so-
really narrowly focused on just campus ministry and how that's going,
Yeah.
like it could start on the campus, but if you narrowly focus on that, your mood, your convictions, your spiritual fervor can really rise and fall just on what's happening in that world.
Yeah.
And that world's small.
And I
right?
think it's kind of like the way I see our staff it changes because right now they're doing college ministry, you know, but I look at like our A2K ministry, for example. Man, they are so awesome. Like they do so much for the kids. Like we had this Halloween thing, and it was like our middle school kids and A2K. It was amazing. Like the setup and
Saw the
thoughtfulness.
Star
yeah.
Wars themed stuff. And
And so I think just my perspective of like, how do we need to grow as kingdom workers? It's not just a narrow set of like, I'm doing college ministry and these are the things I need to be able to do as a college minister. Like, it's like, no, you're a minister and maybe right now you're doing college ministry. But, I want to, like myself and everyone, like, we got to keep growing in all kinds of ways so that we can be kingdom workers in whatever context, and so that picture of context is like way more rich for me after this year. So
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that, what I said at the beginning of the podcast, launching lifelong kingdom workers.
Yeah.
And so not putting your identity in like the particular kind of ministry I'm doing, but that I'm just a minister forever and to whoever God needs me to be. And there's something very healthy about that.
Yeah, I think my experience of that, because I love the fact that I have touch points at ECM and at Dream Center and even helping out Impact for a few weeks. I think it gives me greater confidence in the gospel and the church. Because I look around and I'm like, oh man, when you're 75 or 80 years old, you need the gospel. When you're 6-year-old, you need the gospel. And I'm like, oh, there's so much need out there. And so it just kind of elevates my own thinking of my own life also, and gives me confidence in the fact that what we need to do out there is really something that people really need, so nothing is in vain, and we just got to keep sowing out there.
So speaking of other ministries and things, can you tell us a little bit about Studio Nova before we have to wrap up here? Like, how's it been? I don't know what's going on with Studio Nova.
Just
honestly,
what is
so-
it and why are we diving into it?
How's it been?
Yeah. How's it going?
yeah, well, it started with a lot of everyone saw the presentation, but school is not just like about school anymore, and
It's not
there's
just
a lot of
about
different
math and
influence.
reading.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other stuff.
But
that's
also the other reality is, our kids are not learning as much as they could be learning, and now it's very clear to us because kids took an assessment and now we know where they are, and they're because we don't let them watch TV and they read all the time. They're very, very smart.
They're just under challenge.
They're under challenge. So we
had
are
like a
trying.
fifth grader test at, and he was like 11th grade level. Is that
Yeah,
right?
reading
Yeah.
at an 11th grade level.
Yeah. Although we probably have to strike that from because it's confidential.
Oh.
But yeah, that's okay.
Sorry.
But we're so Studia Nova. It's an accredited private school, and I'm really excited about all that they're going to learn. I think I'm also excited about like all of the ways that our kids are going to learn outside of the curriculum. So some of the things that we have planned, because the curriculum part where they're learning, and they're not like doing. We're
Is
not.
that the micro school?
Yeah,
part
the
where,
micro
like,
school part. They're doing their online learning lessons. So
So let me it's a private school with an online curriculum. And so the benefit is that a student will come and they'll take an assessment, and then they'll have an education pathway that's kind of custom made for them, kind of where they're at and like what gaps in knowledge or understanding that need to be filled. And so it's a custom path in that way. And so in that way, they're not like super bored, right, as they're sitting in a classroom. And so that's one benefit, and then so they operate out of close by Sacramento, and we're going to start an Alameda campus here at HB. And so
When are we starting that?
January
6th.
Like
January.
next month.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
In
right
a few weeks,
after
yeah.
winter camp.
So we have about 24, 25 kids who are going to start. It's going to be a micro school, so it's everyone from first, and then we have a first grade through, we have a few middle schoolers. And so they're all in one classroom, kind of doing their coursework together on their separate computers. But it's kind of a community feel where it's older,
Kind of like
younger.
the one room.
One room classroom. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And
Okay.
so,
Tailored content.
and then after they're done with the online curriculum, then we'll have enrichment classes, and everything from foreign languages to 3D printing, you know.
Yeah, so we have parents lined up to teach different things.
Not like take turns.
Yeah, so we're teaching Korean, we're teaching Chinese.
Oh, wow. I need to learn
We're
Korean.
teaching piano, but through these things called melodicas.
What?
You can look it up. It's kind of a funny instrument where you have to blow into a tube to make sound. Yeah. Basic music theory and melodicas.
Yeah.
We have a chapel hour where they're going to gain more fluency in scripture. There's fun stuff too, like ping pong, PE. There's Bibliopolis.
Yeah.
So it's
Makerspace.
like online private, like one room house, like schoolhouse camp
Yeah.
all together.
Because the learning time is only like a couple hours, right?
3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the afternoon time is what we're providing.
And how are the kids? Like, are they excited about this?
They're
Like, how are
so
they?
excited.
Oh, really?
They're
They're not
really
like
excited.
missing regular school. They
don't like
want to do
school.
this.
Well, right now they're excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess they haven't
we
started
hope
yet.
they're gonna.
Okay.
I think
but
they'll
they're
like
like
it.
willing participants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's one thing. Like, if their child really doesn't want to do it, like, that's something we want to talk to the parents about it. But
Oh,
we
yeah.
have not had situations like
Yeah.
that. Actually, we had the opposite where it was like, we only want to do 1st through 5th. And then these older kids are like, wait a minute. Like, we want to learn.
I
We're
feel
not
that way,
learning. We
sure.
want to do it. So.
yeah.
Wish I had this. And so you guys are like the headmistress and headmaster.
No,
No.
situation, or-
Emily Kim.
Emily
Oh,
is,
Emily
is
Kim.
like she's the
Superintendent,
boss.
principal.
Yeah, we kind of do all the logistical
Okay.
Oh,
work. So yeah.
Okay.
Gosh.
So then
I'm
we're
excited
piloting
about
this
Yeah.
to see. I guess the benefit for our network is to see if there's just better education for our kids,
Yeah, better
as well as just
education.
other. Like, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of neat. Never thought we'd be doing this.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. We didn't know.
wild.
I mean, it was like FTLIT training, but we're starting a school.
Yeah.
I was like,
That wasn't in the job
awesome.
description.
Yeah.
I started in
That's
micro school.
I have one final thing before we wrap up because I think we gotta end it kind of soon. It's been a lot we covered, but tell us, going back to the FTLIT program, just want to hear a little bit about how it's been in terms of your groups. You mentioned you're in cohorts, right? There's 10 couples?
9 couples.
9 couples. And it's very different from our experience. So our experience...
6 couples.
It was 6 couples, and the youngest
about
of
the
us
same
was
age.
2013, and the oldest was 2010. So it's a 4-year age gap. What is it for you guys? It's like a decade, right?
It's 2014
Thanks
to
for
2000
highlighting
and-
that. Yeah. Just like,
2001.
Well, you're not the oldest. I mean, there's
Yeah.
someone older than you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you might fall anywhere in there. They
There
might
are
fall,
2 guys older,
Yeah,
so.
so we can leave that vague. So, but how has that been, like, interpersonally? Like, what do you appreciate about the other guys? What bugs you about them, if you want? Like, how's it been doing this with this kind of wild and crazy group? And
No,
these guys, Josh
so
and
fun.
DJ, and
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's
It's
great.
so fun.
Yeah, I think this like intergenerational cohort of FTLITs it really has been a lot of fun. I think we all bring a little bit of a different dynamic to the table, but it all kind of works together. And I think, you're talking about ERTs, and I was like, man, there's such community creating power when we're all out there kind of doing this thing together, you know. And so that picture of all of us doing our little like special talks on our own, and just trying things. We're like, what are we supposed to do? Is this gonna work? I don't know. Let's just go for it, you know. And yeah, it really brings. I think a lot of us. It has brought a lot of us together, and even the day to day is a lot of fun. So we could be hanging from scaffolding 30 feet in the air in the
Like cooking
cold,
breakfast
you know,
at
or
6 in the
cooking breakfast at
morning,
6 a.m. Yeah, doesn't matter. It as long as you know we have people that we enjoy being with and have that community there, then I feel like we can do that. You know, a lot of things are possible. You know, so yeah.
And it seems like you guys like have your system down for like ERTs. Like everyone kind of knows their role, and like you don't even talk about it. I heard like you guys just go on campus and it's like automatic.
Just
at this
completely in
point.
sync. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, after we've been doing these things for so many times, until the newest idea comes, and then we'll kind of figure things out, you know. But even that's a fun process.
Yeah, I think the age, it doesn't, I don't know that I think about it. You know, like there's, like Brian Mount, Dre, they're like the youngest, but there's things I learn, you know, from them. Ben and Helen, they're like the FTLIT parents, you know, they kind of like keep track of us and like know what's going on and stuff. And, but I think one thing about experiencing it together, the FTLIT program, is it just made me value just our church so much more in some ways, because it's like when you're all in, you have a group of people that are all in, and you have the same goals and the same vision, and you want to do the same thing, you experience just such camaraderie, and then when there's like not, ego in the room, and like, because we're all in the same room, and it's like, whether you're old or you're young, like,
You're cooking breakfast at 6.
it's like,
Yeah.
So you're receiving truth, like as it is, and it's like, but it's not a big deal, because we're here to grow and learn and reach, the world, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, I think, I kind of like in a concentrated way experience like just oneness and fellowship that I think, you can only have that, I think, in partnership with the gospel, like true, deep partnership with like years of history and shared values and all of that. So
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say from that is just, I think it's something I experienced too in FTLIT, and since planning with a lot of the people that we got trained with, we plan at Philly together, and now he's just at Rutgers an hour away. It's just appreciate like when so many ministers today, it's just them, and so many pastors are burning out because they're just all like, we actually get to do this with a lot of people, and we get to do this in very close community, and that's like, that really is the thing that's gonna strengthen us for the long haul.
Yeah, I think I've been seeing that. Like, we're just super lucky. Like, no shade on other pastors, because they're heroes. Like, they, I don't think I could do what they do on my own for sure. But the fact that we get to do it together, it just makes it so much more just doable.
Yeah, it really, for me also, going back to your lifelong kingdom workers, like this is one of the benefits of it is being able to see someone when they were a freshman, and then like Brian or Calvin, and then working alongside them now, it's such a neat kind of journey to be on with them, It only comes through covenant relationship and common commitment, but man, what a precious experience it is to be able to do that with people for this long.
Would your younger self have ever believed that Brian Mao would be a fit at this time?
So
shade on Brian.
the first time Brian came over to my house, right? We had dinner. We cooked dinner, and he had dinner, and then I was like, all right, guys, like, let's can you guys help clean up, right? And I was like, Brian, can you do the dishes? And then he goes from the dining table to the couch, plops down on the couch, and he goes, I don't do dishes.
We'll leave it at that. Draw your own conclusions.
That's a good place to stop there.
I always have vision for people. So I'm not surprised, but I'm, I don't
I have
ever
vision for
say
people
nice
too.
things about him, so I'm going to say it right now on the record. I'm encouraged by him.
Oh.
I was Brian Mao's leader for a year or two. I was my first time leading staff, so I don't know what I did. I probably did a lot of ministry malpractice on him, but praise the Lord. That's all I gotta say. Praise the Lord.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. I think that was like so much there to unpack, but thank you. Tune in next time. Like, subscribe. Gotta say it. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.